Good evening. It is Mother's Day, May 14th. I hope you all had a wonderful day with your families. I want to begin by giving a little feedback on the postings that I saw this week. One reminder is to please make sure that you get your initial postings up by Thursday night, right before midnight. I noticed this week I only had 4 or 5 of them that were up by then, so please make sure that you get that done. Some of you have already posted your project, or your entry, I'm sorry, for the second discussion board. And if your in-text citations and your reference at the end of your entry were done correctly, I noted that in my comments. So if you see that comment back from me, you know that you are doing it correctly, and that's the way that I would expect it to see each week. I want to go over a little bit of APA. There is a resource on the Blackboard site called APA Basics for Concordia's Master of Arts. And this is about a 5.5, 6-page document, and it has about 23 entries, and I just want to go over some that I look for and that are common errors that I want you to look at. So I would really recommend that you download this document and you keep it with you. I keep it stuck inside my APA manual because it gives the page numbers in the manual if you need clarification. So let me begin by saying that your papers that you write, and you do have a 4-page paper due this week, that it is 1 inch all the way around margins. Your font should be Times New Roman and a 12 point. You are to double space your entire document plus the reference page. All of these are double spaced. No additional spaces between paragraphs because you will indent to indicate pagination. If you want to use headings on your paper, and I suggest that you use at least level 1 headings to indicate the different parts of your paper. You can see more information on that on pages 62 and 63 in the manual, but it also gives you directions on this document that's on Blackboard. I would not go past 2 levels for headings because then it gets a little messy. But for this week's paper, you definitely might want to look at how you can use headings in order to make sure that you've included all the important parts of your paper. Pagination starts 1 inch from the top of the paper, and it is about, 1 inch from the edges of the paper and about ½ an inch from the top. So when you put your page numbers or your running heads, they're only down about ½ an inch. Running heads are required, especially on your title page. If you haven't done these before, this is on page 229 in your manual. And running head, the words running head are flush left, only running is capitalized, colon after head, and then your abbreviated title is in all caps. So please make sure that you follow that format. Citations are the biggest issue that I see in papers. So please look carefully in your manual. I have posted a citation for your textbook under the discussion board entries for this week. So if you're not really sure how to do a reference that would go on your reference page or at the bottom of your discussion board entries, please look at that as a sample. There are other samples in the manual, but that will give you a starting place. Most often, the error I see is that people capitalize all the important words in a title, just like we're always taught. But however, in APA style, only the first word of a title is capitalized, so please make note of that. The other thing that I want to comment on is quotations. Use them sparingly. The program really encourages you to learn how to paraphrase rather than quote. So limit your quotations If you do use a quote directly from a text, you must cite the page numbers. In a regular citation, you don't have to put in the page numbers. You can if you want, but it is not mandatory except if you're using exact quotes. So those are the pieces that I usually see students struggle with when I'm reading papers. So look over that. That resource is there online for you. So please, like I said, download it and stick it away so that you have it when you're working on your papers. All right. This week's objectives are to analyze the visions of good leaders and develop a personal vision for instructional and transformational school leadership. You are going to be developing an understanding of ways and means through which good leaders sustain their motivations, their commitments, and good health while balancing professional, ethical, and personal responsibilities. And lastly, you're going to learn to communicate opportunities for positive change in the diverse culture and climate of schools today. So to accomplish this, you're going to have a lot of reading and a lot of videos to look at. Your reading for this week is going to begin in your textbook, and you have 4 chapters. I'm sorry I don't write these syllabi, I just follow them. So you have 4 chapters to read in the textbook. There is an article posted called What Makes a Leader. This is an article written by Daniel Goleman, and he is also the speaker on 2 of the videos. The article is very closely connected to one of the videos, and I can't remember which one it is. One of his videos, he talks about emotional intelligence, which I think is also covered in chapter 5 of your textbook. That first video of Daniel Goleman is only about 5.5 minutes long, and it's about emotional intelligence and how we handle ourselves and our relationships. The second video for Daniel Goleman is 10 minutes on social intelligence and leadership. And he's well qualified to speak on these issues as he is a psychologist that focuses on brain and behavioral science. The other video, the first one that's listed on Blackboard site, is Simon Sinek. And if you're not familiar with Simon Sinek, this is probably his hallmark video. He's done quite a few, but he's a very interesting guy. And this one is called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. It's an 18-minute TED Talk, and it's all about the Golden Circle and what sets inspired leaders and companies apart from others. He talks a lot about the why, knowing your why. He's very interesting, and I think you'll really enjoy that video. So once your readings are completed, you might move to your discussion board. And there are 2 discussion board questions this week, but you only need to respond to one of them. So please, I'm sure that you're happy to hear that you have 2 discussion boards this week. Only one of them needs to be responded to. The first one asks, how does the presence or absence of emotional intelligence impact a teacher's ability to enlist students in a proactive vision of their educational experience? It's a big question. You might break that down a little bit and tear that apart if that's the one that you're interested in responding to. Secondly, identify and describe one strategy that you used or would like to use to engage students in the quest for meaningful achievement. If you have used this strategy, please give a description of its effect on your group and clarify this activity as an example of either envisioning the future, searching for opportunity, or experimenting and risk-taking. So those are your 2 discussion board options. Again, please have your initial response up by Thursday night, right before midnight, and make sure that you cite your sources and put a reference at the end. Assignment 2 has more videos. So you have 2 videos to watch that will require a Windows Media Player. So make sure that you have that installed before you begin this. The first video is an excerpt from the movie Patton. If you don't know who George Patton was, he was a general in World War II, and this was a movie made about his life. You only need to watch the first 14 or 15 minutes of the clip. And your job is to analyze some of the transactional leadership skills that he shows. If you remember from last week, transactional leaders are those who focus on the role of supervision, organization, and group performance. So think about how that might relate to students learning in today's schools. The second video is about Colonel Lawrence Chamberlain. The movie's called Gettysburg, and this one says view the entire clip, which is about 16 minutes long. And one of Chamberlain's first roles was as a leader that he needed to transform 120 mutineers into a fighting army for the Civil War. So you're going to look at his transformational leadership in action, and remembering that transformational leadership. Those are ones who stimulate and inspire followers to achieve extraordinary outcomes. So those are the two. You're going to need to watch both of those carefully because you're going to write a 4-page paper. The 4 pages does not include your title page or your reference page, but it means 4 pages, not 6, not 8, 4. You need to go through 6 steps. They're listed under this assignment, identifying the leadership style of each of the people in the clips, compare and contrast those, their strengths and their personal application, provide a written summary of Patton's leadership characteristics. So when I talked earlier about the headings, each of these numbers you might make a level 1 heading. So talking about leadership style, comparing and contrasting, summarizing their characteristics. You can combine some of those ideas into one section if you would like. Then you want to identify the efforts that they made to develop a shared vision, establish a working relationship, and enlisting others in an effort, in the effort before them. Please describe your thoughts about the benefits and or the disadvantages of adopting a transformational leadership style versus a transactional one. And then reflect upon a current educational problem and reform strategies and compare and contrast those to Patton and Chamberlain's leadership efforts. So those 6 parts, if you can identify them somehow within your paper by using level 1 headings, that makes it much easier for me to read your papers and to make sure that you have covered all of the points that are being asked of you in this assignment. Again, it has to be an APA style, so you will have a title page with a running head. You will have a full reference page referencing these videos. You might also reference some of the reading material you did last week on transactional and transformational leadership. And then lastly, I just want to remind you about that week 6 assignment 4 that is an ongoing reading reflection journal. So make sure that you're getting something up there each week while you're reading that reflects on a minimum of 2 concepts or ideas from each of the week's readings or videos, something that resonates with you. These don't have to be long and involved, but it's kind of an ongoing. You don't want to have to go back and pick those up at the end of the term. So make sure that you're making those notes and keeping up with that during each week. Okay, if you have any other questions or concerns about this week's assignments, please email me or give me a call. I'm happy to assist you in any way that I can. And I hope that you have a really great week, and I'll talk to you next Sunday.